So I need to start this episode with the story before the story, because it says so much about how a neurodivergent's mind works and what effect that kind of mind can have on others, which is something us neurodivergents have to deal with on a daily basis, living in a neurotypical culture. So, okay, here's the setup. Here's the prelude to the main event. My poor friend, who had spent the week carefully considering the topic I had first covered with David Hosking on the last episode, and I'd asked him to essentially be a part 2 to that conversation to see how his methods differed. Then 1 hour before the recording, I was kindly sent an article by my interviewee to help provide some context around what had led him to create his latest exhibition. It would then facilitate our talk about his process and how it might have changed over time, to hopefully enlighten those of us who struggle to actualise the thoughts in their head in a way that would, be complete and satisfying. But instead, what it did was make me consider more the intersection between toxic masculinity, the focus of his new exhibition, and how us neurodivergent types might express their frustrations. So for the next hour, I entered that wonderful flow state that we talked about last episode and came up with an entirely different episode, which I then replied back on the email with a brief breakdown, very brief, of what the discussion was going to cover now. 10 minutes before the recording. Now, to say my dear friend was a little taken aback, a little shaken, a little stirred, was somewhat of an understatement, and rightly so. He said in hindsight, because at the time I didn't even consider how this might sort of, be a bit of a shock. I then texted him to say, sent you an email, have changed the topic last minute, 'cause Dan. To which he replied, really? I then took a phone call to help him come to terms with my misdirection, and with some trepidation and some further context to why it was a better topic, he agreed not to slap me. And so, here we have the result of this hyperfixated reroute. And you know what? I think we pulled it off. So let's see what happens when two friends walk on stage without an act or a harness. And let me introduce you to the one and only Andy Drewitt. Andy Drewitt is a distinguished artist, photographer and journalist located in Melbourne, Australia. He is well respected for his significant contributions to photojournalism, highlighting themes of community and inclusiveness. His work frequently explores unconventional subjects while upholding a respectful and non-judgmental approach. I have had the privilege of composing music for several of his videos and exhibitions, which address a diverse range of topics including refugees seeking solace in a new country, the challenges faced by caregivers of individuals with disabilities, and the diverse array of sports that people engage in. There was even one about rabies in dogs in Bali, and I had a lot of fun banging on lots of drums to create that tensityity to the moment. So starting as a journalist in 1999, Andy shifted to photography in 2003, earning multiple national awards for his print and multimedia work. His photography highlights compelling stories locally and internationally, including notable projects in Armenia. Additionally, Andy is a published poet, with his work featured in the Red Room Epic project. He has also completed his first novel, on its way. His contributions to the media have also earned him respect and recognition, including a Walkley Award, I was there to see it, for documenting the lives of resettled refugees in Australia, showcased in his Freedom exhibition at the Immigration Museum a few years back. His latest exhibition, This Is Your Fault, focuses on toxic masculinity and gender equality and will run from March 11th to April the 5th at No Vacancy Gallery in Melbourne. Details will be added to the notes. So it's an interesting we've done here that, we had this discussion about what we're going to talk about. And, it was going to be based around the fact that the last episode I did was with David Hosking, and we were talking about, how one breaks through some of these barriers that neurodivergent people have to get to follow their art, to follow whatever they want to do, things they're passionate about. But then you sent me an article, which sent me on a wonderfully spirally loop into other worlds, into your world at the moment as well, because it's an article that I'm not sure how this is relating to your exhibition, which is called "This Is Your Fault." But is the article something that people are going to be reading before they see it, or is it going to be at the exhibition? I just want to get the context of this article first.
First of all, I just wanted to point out that I only sent you the article maybe an hour or two ago, and I'm quite in awe of how quickly you can spiral into other worlds. Coming back to your question though. The article I've written in the hope that it will be published in a newspaper or, in terms of publicising the exhibition.
Yep.
It almost got into Good Weekend, Melbourne, Sydney, but they didn't have time to run it either before or during the exhibition. So if people don't read that article beforehand, then there will be some contextual information in the exhibition as to why I'm putting on this show. Yep.
It's interesting because the article it's dealing with, I suppose, about you specifically, and it's dealing with things that, and the reason why I want to start talking about this instead of talking about artistic flow and all that sort of stuff is that we're talking about masking. So when I'm reading this, I keep thinking about the sorts of masking that a lot of neurodivergent people have to do throughout their lives. And so there's an intersection between the kind of way that men express themselves, their hurt, their confusion, with the sort of things that neurodivergent do when they mask. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I think it's going to be really interesting to see how there's similarities and what the differences are between what goes on in men's heads and what goes on into a neurodivergent person's head when they are masking, and how they go about expressing themselves, because I think there are some slight differences in that part of it, but we'll see. I'd be interested to see what you think about this. So one of the things that your article talks about is, I suppose, you're attempting to make sense of what your feelings are. Your acting tough for a lot of men is a form of masking. And the way that we're sort of been brought up is to act in certain ways. Now, in the article, you were talking about your background being from sort of a more religious background, but I would say that would be different in the way that that toxic male sort of behaviours would be expressed a little bit differently in that setting than it would be in a non-religious setting. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think through the lens of religion, that toxic behaviour would be, what's the word here? Possibly curated, to align with, I guess, the values of the Bible. To rewind a little bit. I mean, like, the way that I see toxic masculinity, the definition that kind of resonates with me is men not feeling like they can express emotions, feelings, thoughts that are perceived to be feminine in nature. And so the behavior that kind of follows that is everything which you've touched on there about masking it.
Yeah.
And the problems that arise from that with masking is obviously if you can't express what you're feeling and if it's spiraling out of control, like if I send you an article and an hour or two later you feel like you're in other worlds, Dan. We're laughing, but It's where men can end up if they can't feel, if they don't feel like they can express things that are troubling them. Even joy or spontaneity, which is something that I struggled with a lot, like just feeling like I could be excited about something or even proud of something. Like in the article, I touched on that. I've always been a creative person, but there was a time when, as an 11-year-old, I'd written a poem. And it was about the crucifixion of Christ, and my mum encouraged me to read it out during one of our Sunday services in the cult. Yep. And I did that, and the room was just silent.
Yes.
And whenever the room was silent there, it usually meant bad things. And so I was intensely uncomfortable, regretted that I'd read it, got home, asked my mum if I'd done something wrong, and she said, no, you haven't done anything wrong. It's just that it was really good and nobody wanted you to feel proud about it.
Yep.
And pride
being a sin.
Pride was a sin. So I'd done the wrong thing, and I thought to myself, well, I had been proud of this and I need to punish myself. So I went out to the garage and hit myself on the head 3 times with a breadboard to quell the thought.
Yes.
To squash my pride down.
Yep.
And so, I've lost my train of thought.
No, well, I know exactly where you're going, because you talk about at the end where you said to you're proud that you can feel proud.
Yeah.
And that sense of being able to feel joy and excitement, not something I still am able to understand myself. I don't. And for me, it's about trying to understand whether it is a natural thing for me to express outward joy and those sorts of things. I still don't know, but a sense of pride and a sense of showing your art or displaying your art and how you're perceiving it's coming back to you is a really difficult thing. Typical to the topic we were going to talk about, actually. Which is cool, because that all underlines what the article is about and what your exhibition's going to be about. I'm trying to. So I when I was reading this article, I was also going back to, funnily enough, a program. It's on Netflix called Chimp Empire. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the most extraordinary documentaries I think I've ever watched, because when I'm watching them talking about, it's really 2 tribes of chimpanzees that they're talking about whose border each other, their areas, and basically go through these groups and not just talk about how the 2 different chimp societies are interacting with each other, but how they interact internally, and it's so similar. I mean, when I'm watching them talking about leadership, the kinds of leadership there are, and the way that the way that they display that leadership either through aggression or through other means, and the 2 different chimps who these groups were right next to each other were so completely different in how leadership was expressed and how the groups worked together. It was extraordinary. Both were effective. And that's an idea and a concept that's been in my head for a long time, is that, part of we are apes. We are we display these same behaviours of aggression, of wanting to protect our borders, of seeing difference and reacting in an aggressive way. But we're also capable, similar to what the bonobos society is, which is a different type of ape, is that they express things very differently. They're not really a very aggressive species, but we seem to have taken on the chimps a lot more than the bonobos, even though we're capable of both. Now, so in short, I'm saying basically it's an innate thing. We are innately aggressive as a species, but we're also the opposite of that as well. And often our cultures then come into play. So our cultures, how we will express what's inside of us, both the ability to be kind and the ability to be aggressive, can often be factored into where you are in your on a planet, where you are in your life, the church you go to, the sort of people you hang out with, the kind of culture that you're like that Australia, in our example, fosters. So all these things come to play in how we go about doing our masking. So for a neurodivergent person like myself, and like you're the same, we don't express ourselves aggressively. We internalize that aggression. We sort of become aggressive to ourselves. So being unable to understand or communicate your own emotions. I got this from Goblin Tools, just so you know. It was awesome. Being unable to understand or communicate your own emotions is unsettling and frustrating, and that can be expressed in an aggressive way. I've said a lot there, but I'm trying to get to the point that for you internalized this aggression. You could have gone the other way as well. So you were aggressive to yourself, and that aggressive even to the stage where I got to as well, which is the thoughts of suicide, the suicidal options that we presented to ourselves, and then had to make a call on that, you know.
I mean, I guess for me, I expressed, you know, and I consider this to be toxic masculinity, you know, like to express anger or aggression inwardly, you know, rather than outwardly. And for me, I think it kind of comes back to my personality, you know, like I'm an introvert. I don't like making life harder for other people around me. I was brought up to be a people pleaser, to not make trouble, to keep the peace. And so all of that just fed into me, funneling my frustration, anger, rage onto myself rather than onto other people. And, you know, I think it follows personality traits of introverts, extroverts, you know, and expresses itself through those channels, you know, whichever trench is the deepest, the water will follow, you know.
So for someone like myself and other neurodivergent people, here's the distinction that I see, which I'm interested to see what you think. For neurodivergent people to choose the aggressive mask when they're frustrated and they're trying to make sense of the situation, I think we can often choose outward aggression as that mask, but we don't necessarily feel the aggression. We're looking at other people around, we're looking at our culture, we're looking at the men around us, and we go, well, this is what they're doing, so I'll just copy that and I'll start doing that. I have an example with my father, or a few examples I made a choice with no feelings of aggression inside me to act aggressively to him, because that's the only way that it was going to work to communicate what I needed to communicate. And I know that that's how it worked in that situation. Oh, now I'm supposed to get angry. So that's what I'll do. And I did it. I was terrible at it. It's not a natural thing to do, but I chose that and got myself worked up through that, you know, through doing that. But I got myself worked up internally. You see what I'm saying? Like I didn't feel aggressive at all. So do you think that is something that's quite a distinct difference between neurotypes and how they express it? Do you believe that when men are being toxic and aggressive, they are aggressive? Because I think that's a natural thing. We're wired that way.
So just so I understand the question correctly, you're saying like, whenever aggression is presented, released, however you want to coin it, that the person is actually feeling the aggression, or is it a masking behavior? Is that what you're hinting
That's
at?
the two distinctions. That I think that when men are generally aggressive, they are being aggressive, and they are lost control, and all those aggressive tendencies are out, and they're very effective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for a neurodivergent mind, we don't necessarily feel that innate aggressiveness. I never do. I just don't feel any innate aggressiveness. It just doesn't come out.
It's an interesting question, because I think that aggression can be used as a tool. You know, like as a form of control. You know, or you know, I've seen men, you know, like smash things, slam doors, punch walls, as an act of terror. Like,
Yes.
this is what I'm capable of,
Yep.
But you'd better toe the line. That's the
Yep.
subtext to it, like.
And that is one of the chimps. That is one of the groups that the male would once in a while just start running around, smacking trees, breaking stuff, hitting things with branches, and they'd all just be, oh, okay, let's behave ourselves. So it's exactly what we do.
It's chest beating.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's this scene from The Sopranos that comes to mind where the main character, like, who actually has a sensitive side to him, this mafioso boss, and he is injured, and he perceives himself to be weaker than the other men around him. And then he puts on this act of aggression where, basically unprovoked, he punches a guy almost to death as a way of reasserting his dominance.
Yep.
He wasn't angry.
No, it's calculated.
It's calculated.
Yeah.
I'm using a fictional example here, possibly, to euphemize what I've seen out of a fictional context and in a factual context. Like I've seen that happen. In various settings throughout my life. So it's difficult to actually delineate if somebody is acting from real rage, or if they're using it as a tool. You would have to know the person pretty well, but the end result is the same.
It's the same.
It's terror.
Yep, it is. But taking it back that step, like we talk about, we self-direct our aggression often, or those feelings of frustration at least. It's all internalized first, and that would, I imagine, for most people, that would be something that they would be dealing with, stemming from that sort of pattern of, it's not a pattern. It's more just that inability to express and understand what these feelings are. You basically haven't been given the tools necessary to be able to express yourself correctly. But on the other hand, I think we're saying that there are also men and women who are just simply aggressive leadership type people who don't internalize any of the stuff. They just use that aggression as a means to get what they want. Do you agree there's a big distinction?
Very much so. And I think that what you just mentioned now, I think that it's very instinctive as well, like it is almost animalistic and, chimpanzee-like, if I don't get what I want, I'm going to throw poo at the wall.
Yep. So with your exhibition, are you talking about the outcome, or do you talk about any tools that may be possible? I say that because the article that you wrote doesn't go into any of the tools. It doesn't go into any detail about what you did to get past that. It talks more about the lead up, in between, towards becoming the man he became. What happened? How did he get to that point? And it's the same with this article. Is that? And I'm wondering if this is the same with what the exhibition is. Is it just showing the outward manifestation of aggression?
I've got a cat which has snuck in.
Oh, perfect. So you have no idea how many cats there are on this podcast. Cats and dogs, and we allow it. They're allowed to show up.
He was trying to destroy your microphone box, so it was a little bit distracting. So I mean, like, I guess coming out of it happened by degrees, and sometimes imperceptibly. Like you're often not aware of the small changes in your mindset, and influenced by whatever, which may challenge thought patterns. Like your sense of self, which all kind of move you forward incrementally.
To get to that point in the first place, you have to be open to it.
You have to be open to it.
So why did you get open to it?
Because what I was doing wasn't working.
Yep.
And because I wanted to hurt myself, and
Yep.
I knew that if I didn't change the way that I was thinking about
Yep.
myself, that there wasn't really much of a future for me.
Yep.
And it certainly wasn't a happy future.
Yep.
So did I make a conscious decision to open up myself? I don't think so at that time. I think that it was because I was in a state there where, like growing up in a strict fundamental cult where, like to think the wrong way was a sin,
Yep.
know.
Yep.
To give you an example, my brother had been killed in a farming accident when I was 14 and
Yep.
he was 18. And obviously, like I was ruined by it and grieving heavily. And after a few weeks, it seemed like people in the cult, my parents included, had stopped grieving. And I asked my mum and dad about it, and they said, "Oh no, we're still sad, but
Yep.
to grieve outwardly is to question God's faith.
Yes.
His plan for our lives."
Yes. Yep.
And so,
And you were told to quell that.
I was told to quell that. And so you don't really let yourself think things that you don't want to think. And therefore you put self-awareness in a box.
Yes.
And you become really proficient at masking. And for me, masking was using humor. I would concentrate on relaxed body language. I would
Yes.
finish sentences with "man," just to
I try to
give the
understand that
impression that I was pretty chilled, but also too, like it actually had a calming effect on me. Like
Yes.
it was like
Yeah.
the thoughts followed the deeds.
You know what you were doing? This is the sort of the irony is that you were just doing a different mask, and that happens with change. Is that in the beginning of change, you have to act. You have to act it out. You have to go, here's the sort of person that I think I'd like to be. I'm going to start acting that way. But then after repetition, it becomes a new mask.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, but and this is the difficult thing with masking, is to make sense of are there always going to be masks? It's just you're choosing which one you're putting on, or is there something behind the mask? I don't know the answer to that, but choosing a good mask, I think, is a very healthy thing to do, and it's a very kind thing to do to yourself and for the people around you. And so at some point you put on a very simple mask with a slight little smile and started to work with that. And I suppose that's why I know it's a subtle thing, because that's what change can be. It can be very slow, particularly when you've got decades of having a more comfortable mask on. Even if it wasn't working for you, it's still a comfortable thing to do. So you managed to allow yourself opportunities to think things differently, and that would have been a very scary thing to do. It's scary for anyone who's going through that process of trying to make sense of themselves. So it's a very brave thing to do, and it's not something that a lot of people will do. They'll stick with what they got, So that is something. Again, you talk about pride. That's something that you should be very proud of, that you did allow yourself to be uncomfortable. To work your way through that.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable, but I guess probably what I was going through was even more uncomfortable. So it was a necessity. And like I say, I didn't think about this consciously. Like this is all, that's everything that I've reflected on since, up to this point now.
Yeah. Yep.
And, talking about those incremental things that, changed me. One very simple thing was, I used to work for my dad, and we were on a farm. We had a big nursery. Often I would be by myself, and I would get so bored, so lonely, which wasn't a good thing for my mental health.
Yeah.
And so to get me through the day, I used to listen to the radio, and I started with all the commercial stations, and then got bored with one, and then went to the next and the next and the next, and then ended up listening to Triple J, which totally ran counter to my value system. Like, as growing up in a cult where homosexuality, feminism, sex out of marriage, even activism, anything that was considered to be a vice was trouble, and considered to be a negative influence on us, and something that would pull us from the world of faith into the world of Satan's underpants, basically. And so I had my mind opened up to this world where people were caring passionately about issues, and not just issues, but about people, like they were risking things to help people. And that really, really resonated with me, because it wasn't about myself then, and like trying to pursue a sense of personal morality, which was all about what the cult was, to the point where everyone was just facing inwards on themselves, and like trying to pull each other down to take the heat off themselves, like ratting each other out, to pulling down each other's buildings to make sure that theirs was a little bit higher than everyone else's. And suddenly this just seemed like a whole world of positivity where things that other people were doing could actually help other people. And that seemed closer to my sense of who I thought God was at that time than anything I had heard about in the cult. And then from Triple J, like I started meeting people, yourself included, and some of your friends, and some that you've interviewed, Martin, and people that seemed, or that were a lot more comfortable in their skin than I was. And
perceived.
You chuckle, but like I mean, like it's a perception, I suppose, like who is comfortable in their skin. I think we all struggle with being comfortable in our skin to some degree.
Yes.
But there are degrees, like, and your little friend network that I had the absolute privilege of being a part of, was probably like quite a saving grace for me, because I felt accepted when I didn't accept myself. And for me, that was crucial, because it opens the doorway to the possibility that, I could be okay. I could possibly like myself.
Yeah, and you can express what you feel and what you believe, or all those things. For us, we're just like, well, yeah, it's all okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow any particular pathway to retain a friendship. And
I mean, I didn't feel like I had to tick boxes, like there was that freedom of expression, like I didn't feel like I had to second think, third think everything I said, just in case it could be turned back on me at a later date. Yeah, which is liberating, like it's hard to quantify the profound effect that has on your identity, your and your sense of well-being.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's an amazing thing, and I think when we talk about that little friendship group, I don't think any of us are really capable of doing it any other way. Like, I've had conversations with people, including family members and like my father, where I'm like, I'm not even capable of behaving the ways you think I have behaved. The way that I've been underhanded, and that I've thought all these terrible things about you and all this sort of stuff, that none of those things are even within me to be able to express, and that's a really good thing, but also it's a very dangerous thing for yourself, because you're open to being really, really hurt, and that's that's a really tough a tough thing to have to deal with. There's a strength that's required for you to be able to do that. And I think we're both sort of still working on that, you know.
Very much so.
How does all this fit into the exhibition itself? Because, you know, I sort of go back to that same question of like, what is the exhibition? Is it expressing the expression? Is it expressing ways that men show their aggression? Or is there another element to it about how to find a different path?
I guess I'm reticent to suggest paths to men, you know, to anybody really. I mean, I used to be a fixer, you know, like where I would probably get like a sense of fulfillment, probably is the word I'm looking for feeling like I could be a positive input on somebody's life, and often I would use my own experience to try to be and you know, like I would think, well, it would often fall flat, and my experience isn't necessarily going to work for somebody else.
No,
you know, everyone is so different. And so what am I trying to achieve with this exhibition? It's a good question. Initially, it was born from anger.
Yep.
There were some things going on in my family at the time where people close to me were being hurt by other people close to me.
Yeah.
And it can only be defined as toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, like and controlling behavior that was very much at the middle of it. And I just needed to express this, you know, like everything up to this point, you know, like I talked about the poem that I'd written, and you know, after that moment where I'd felt like I'd done something wrong with the poem, I had stifled my creativity. You know, I hadn't really done much until my early 20s. I started writing a little bit.
Yes.
And I touched on the odd story here and there. Like I wrote about my brother's death and what have you. But after that, I got in the media, and I became so much more comfortable telling other people's stories than my own. And I enjoyed that. And it was great. And I felt like I was doing some of the work that I'd been inspired by Triple J. You know, like I did an exhibition on asylum seekers, and I photographed and documented homeless people and people with mental health issues, just to bring more understanding and empathy towards these people. And so now, I mean, like up until probably even 12 months ago, I hadn't really talked much about the cult or even used the word cult.
No.
And you can probably attest to that. And I probably hadn't even told you many of these stories, Dan, about it until recently.
It's your story to tell. It's not mine to try and tell out of you.
Yeah. And for me, I guess going down this rabbit hole of why are some members in my family acting this way towards other members of my family?
Yeah.
Has just forced me to try to understand, to make sense of it.
Yep.
Which I'm still trying to do, but I guess the exhibition is an imprint of that, of me trying to understand it.
Yep.
And initially it was anger, and there are some angry pieces in there as well.
Yes.
Like, there's this series called, you know, Why Men Smash Stuff.
Yeah,
which is pop art inspired. You know, they're big, and they've got these scenes of men engaged in a violent act, and you know, where instead of the usual onomatopoeic word where there's a point of contact, which might be wham or blam or something. It's replaced with depression,
Yep.
anxiety,
Yep.
insecurity, narcissism, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's one piece there, and there's another one too, which is it's 2 panels, and it's called Man-Child, and it's a lot closer to the exploration of my family, the men in my family, and myself included up to a point. And it's basically 2 light boxes which have been covered with canvas, and into the canvas has been actually cut.
Yep.
These shapes into loosely an X and a Y, forming the male genome, the X and Y chromosome.
Yep.
And the Y is upside down to signify turmoil.
Yep.
And over these, what are these cracks in the light boxes? There are these nappy pins which are sewing it back together again as
Yep.
a symbol of a childlike attempt to keep the emotions inside, to not let anybody see them. And written inside the light boxes, the X light panel, which
Yep.
we share that obviously with the with females, and it typifies the feminine side of the male nature. Is written, sometimes I think there's something wrong with me, and everyone knows what it is except for
Yep.
me.
Yep.
And the Y, the upside down Y, the male chromosome off kilter, is written, what the fuck are you looking at?
Yeah. Yep.
It's the wall up.
Yeah.
And just despite these nappy pins stitching it back together,
Yep.
and it's got this rough exterior as well, like it's I've used a heavy texture which is uncomfortable to touch, and
Yep.
it's matte. It's not shiny. It's almost everything about it is repelling
Yes. Yep.
people away from it.
Yep.
But still the light is coming through those cracks.
Yep.
It's finding
Yep.
a way out. Yeah.
And that's the explosion. So it sounds more like, which is I think really I like about art, whether it be art like any kind, any form, is often questioning things, providing a question or an example, but not necessarily giving you an answer.
Mm.
That's why Dylan never liked to talk about his songs. He wrote them. You do what you want with them, but I wrote them, and it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. So how people are going to experience this exhibition are going to be vastly different depending where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's well, what does the media say? They call it creating a conversation. But I think it's more likely to create an inner conversation, as just as much for people as it will creating a conversation externally, because both are needed. To have a discussion externally is all good and well, but if the person who's expressing themselves in these ways doesn't know how to deal with them, how's that going to help?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it comes back to what you said before. Like with we used myself as an example, but like my journey started with self-awareness. And, that question of, like, what do I do with this?
Yep.
I think is the first question in self-awareness, why am I feeling like this, looking at this artwork? Suddenly these are questions about the self, what's inside.
Yep. And
hopefully the next question might be, it's hard to actually come up with the next question.
Yeah,
but hopefully it would be something further along the chain of self-reflection. Yeah. That could just start a journey of, like I feel this way and it's not entirely good, and
yep.
what can I do about that?
Yep. And these are the sorts of things that we all have to work through. Now, So we're trying to find a way out of these sort of tendencies, these patterns that we get ourselves in. Medication is another one that is incredibly helpful. Mm-hmm. And for me, in dealing with my anxieties, which were 1,000-fold, they weren't those big gigantic sort of expressions. They were just those little mini cuts that I was giving myself over and over every day, whisked away, just puff, went away, And so in some ways, dealing with these sorts of feelings and anxieties and things can be helped immensely with the medication, but it still doesn't answer the questions of how do I go about dealing with either I've still got it or now it's gone, but what do I do with that? So some of those practical things that both of us have been working on, I'd be interested to see what you think have been certain methods, whether it's medication, whether it's been going to talk to a psychologist, whether it's been reading certain books. What have you found has been part of that journey that's been quite effective for you?
Yeah, medication.
Yep.
Yes, I mean, like anxiety has always been a thing for me.
Yep.
Ever since I was a kid, like it was overarching and all-consuming at times, and medication has certainly helped that. Psychology as well. I went to see a psychologist, and he basically just held a mirror up to me, and I ended up asking my own questions, basically, like. Yeah, just end up seeing yourself through someone else's eyes, like for the first time. And, for me, it was the actual physical act of going to a psychologist, I think, just opened me up, like I just actually making the appointment, getting in the car, driving, getting out of the car, walking up the stairs. It's like,
I'm a man. I shouldn't need this. And that's what I used to say. I don't need that. I've got the capabilities of dealing with all this myself.
Yeah.
No, you don't. No one does. No, we're not. That's not how we tick. We can't do things on our own. That's a big part of this problem. Men just taking on this thing like, I can be tough. Psychically tough as well, like within my own all these emotions, all these things. I can deal with these things myself. I can fix it. Which I've learned the same thing by going to a psychologist. Oh my God, they brought things up and twisted things in a way that all of a sudden go, oh my God, I'd never thought of it that way before. And that's what you want to get. That's a real journey. That's a real sort of tick in the checkbox of getting feeling better about yourself. Is that turn of like, I never thought of it that way before. Yeah.
And that opens you up to, what else haven't I thought about in that way before?
Ooh. Oh my God, shit. Yeah, it's a lovely, rude, uncomfortable awakening, which has there's an excitement there, but not for everyone, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you are with the journey, I think, and how open you are to finding things out.
Yep.
And for me, it was confronting that fear in the shadows, of what I would find out.
Yeah.
And I guess I found out that the creature in the shadows, it wasn't actually as scary as what I was going through, really.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
And the world is filled with creatures in the shadows. We're all creatures in the shadows. We're not so unique as we think we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We all go through this.
And so I mean, my creature in the shadow was anxiety, and this came from the cult because anxiety was a sin like any other. And you went to hell for being anxious, for feeling undue anxiety, beyond like, where are my car keys, or the little things that might annoy you during the day. But the type of anxiety I had was the type that I thought was going to send me to hell. So I fed this creature in the shadows. Like, I cannot be anxious. I cannot feel anxious. And so all I could think about was anxiety. And the more I thought about not being anxious, the more anxious I became. And so I created this loop for myself, which was very, very hard to get out of. And
it's pretty tough when you're told that creature in the shadows is a loving creature as well. You know, that makes it so difficult. It's like these two things aren't making sense. They're not matching up. You know, you can't. How does that work? You know, is that really what I'm supposed to be feeling? You know.
Well, the first thing the psychologist said to me was like, you know, what are you anxious about? And I said, anxiety. He was like, well, anxiety is a normal human response to threatening stimuli. Like, you are meant to feel anxious. It's the fact that your ancestors, you know, it's the reason that your ancestors weren't eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex, you know. They saw one and they ran because they felt anxiety. It's why you study before a test. It's why you move a bit faster out of the way of a bus.
Yep.
It's all of those reasons. So I realized that the monster in the shadows was basically a construct, and made friends with it, and, you know, the panic attack stopped, and now I just see anxiety for what it is. It's a part of life, and it's actually a helpful thing at times.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd like to think we're on that sort of natural evolutionary path towards or away from those aggressive parts of ourselves that really nowadays are just not suiting us. They're just elements that we don't need anymore. They're like, you know, I've had a gallbladder taken out. We don't really need it anymore. And I don't think we need that kind of sudden aggressive stuff. And so there's an overarching, it's not a philosophy, it's a very simple one, but I think that is also a good starter for people who are sort of perhaps wanting to explore why they, you know, express what they do, and it doesn't matter whether it's a neurotypical or neurodivergent person. As he said, it's expressed the same way. Is the simple concept of kindness, and not just kindness to others, but kindness to yourself. And if you begin that journey with, and that's what happened to me. Well, the psychologist who got me through the diagnosis said that simple sentence. It's just, you know, you when I was talking about all these blah 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 blah, all these things, he said you just have to just be kind to yourself. Just remember, be kind to yourself, and that's been the most impactful sentence for me to get to begin that journey of trying to make understand is be more kind to yourself. You know, it's a really important thing to do. And if by doing that, that means you're allowed to go to a psychologist. That means you're allowed to consider the options of medication.
Absolutely.
And to put on a different radio station that you normally wouldn't, to hear what other people who are not like you have to say. You know, kindness is a nice thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there are these steps to being kind to myself that I kind of remind myself of, you know, like acceptance.
Yep.
Like accepting that I'm feeling the way that I am because of who I am.
Yep.
And permission as well, you know, like permission to feel it.
Yes.
You're giving it space, you know, even if I might not like it, but still, you know, the other alternative to that is to not like it and try to excise a part of our personality from ourselves.
Yep.
Which, you know, if it's, unless it's something obviously that's hurting somebody, then it's often there for a reason. Like I was saying about anxiety to help us. So yeah, permission to feel and permission to accept ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
And kindness is not just, it's a wonderful term, I think, because you can also be kind to someone by using tempered aggression, to say snap out of it and things like that. The kindness can be displayed in so many different ways. And that's why I think it's a useful tool for going through this process. What's going to follow this exhibition then? Where do you think you will have done enough that you can sort of let it go? And do you think that's going to have some, it's like almost like an exorcism of some of those things that have happened in the past?
I don't think it's over yet. I think the exorcism's still happening. I mean, it's happening on a personal level for myself. And I guess one unexpected benefit for me from all of this has been, you know, because like I was talking about telling other people's stories, but never really my own. And, you know, like I guess the sense of freedom that I've felt, and I guess knowing myself a whole lot more for telling this story. And, you know, we were just talking about kindness, but, you know, because I know myself more, I've kind of, you know, I've processed a lot more of what actually happened in the cult and how I was taught to be unkind to myself. Like, you shall not feel anxiety. And if you do, you shall punish yourself until you don't. You know, it's helped me see myself in a new light and helped me accept myself in ways that I hadn't before. You know, like when I thought that all of that was behind me, you know, like I thought that I'd done my processing with all of this, but found another box in the attic and, you know, have been rummaging through it with equal amounts of horror and excitement. And along the way, I've been, you know, meeting and talking to all of these people with similar stories. And, you know, the thing that I realize is that toxic masculinity, whether or not it's expressed outwardly or inwardly, it really affects us all. I mean, all of us have a story. And so where to from here? For me, it's about continuing to express myself to get this out. And, you know, I will run its course at some time, and what comes next, I'm not sure. But for the moment, I've just, you know, I've got a lot of heat inside me about getting this out, and, you know, I'm just going to let that happen and see what goes from there.
You literally are late to the party in all this. Like, and it's I hadn't thought about it that way before, because for me, I've used songwriting as a therapy since I was 15, 16. So I started that journey really early, and pretty much anything I wrote back then was about me, and it was about my experiences and all those things. That it was a means for me to an outlet. So the idea that there wouldn't be an outlet is unbelievable. You know. Yeah. And now you're going through it so much later on in the game.
Yeah.
Anyone who's listening to this will know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I've had that. I've been lucky with that, I guess. I've been fortunate that in that respect, but I also didn't understand myself, and you know, until my late 40s. Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? See, this was so much better than talking about you know, creative flow.
Yeah, right? That was a stupid idea, Dan.
The creative flow is in everything we talk about. It still is talking about that topic, but just coming in from a different direction.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, like it's that topic actually does kind of spin into this one for me, because, you know, it's not. We talked about it being uncomfortable, you know, rummaging through the box. Yeah, like I kind of need momentum, you know, like to express it. You know what I mean? Like
you're playing catch up. Your creative flow is catch up, because you weren't allowing yourself to have that flow.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, and you know, like I've got to psych myself up to it sometimes. You know, like it's like I was talking about making the appointment with the psychologist. You know, like I had to have some momentum to get there. You know what I mean? Right. And expressing this stuff, like I've got to have momentum to get there still. And momentum initially was anger.
Yep.
Now it's a bunch of things.
Is it doggedness part of it?
It's doggedness.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not so much a motivator or a driving force as, you know, probably the main thing for me at the moment is connections that I'm making along the way. Conversations like this where, you know, like it's, I guess, in me trying to make sense of what was a difficult childhood, a very difficult family situation, which the ramifications are still reverberating.
Yeah.
For me, this exhibition is, in some part drawing positives out of a very negative situation. Positives for myself personally by learning to express, finding out more about who I am, but also talking to other people and, I guess hopefully helping them to express about it or to feel something that they, or to give them permission to express something about. To feel uncomfortable and to and to give themselves permission to say that wasn't right. What happened to me, like that has impacted me greatly, whatever that is, like that was wrong. And because, like often there's so much guilt, self-guilt and blame that follows, acts of toxic masculinity. Like, if only I was different with that person, if, whatever. Yeah. So hopefully it's, hopefully just, resonates and helps people to start talking about this more.
Another word I use all the time is zeitgeist. All these things matter because it's about building in your culture the idea that thinking about this stuff is cool, thinking about this stuff is popular, thinking about this stuff is something we're all going to start talking about. All those things are really useful. It's a marketing thing, really, as well. And it's a funny thing is that using that form of marketing is considered a form of artwork too. And that idea of making this a cool thing to converse with each other about it really works. It really, really works well. So that's why this sort of thing is really important to do. So thank you for doing this exhibition. I think it's going to add to the zeitgeist, the discussions where men aren't going to necessarily reply to something. If you post this on somewhere like Facebook, and a lot of men will give the laugh emoji, because that's them immediately shutting down and going, nah, pussy, weak. All that sort of stuff is still very much entrenched in how men react. But the more times that we talk about this stuff and then their mates start to talk about it, all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, better think about this.
Yeah.
I don't mind forcing. I think that's a good thing. Culture can force people to, conform in really positive ways. It's good for you. We're doing what's best for you.
It's probably about as toxic as you get, Dan. This is good for you.
Oh, that's ruined the whole conversation now. We're part of the problem. Well, thanks so much for talking to me about this. It's just been it's been awesome.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for
straight
having me.
away.
I've enjoyed it.
And so, look, for anyone who's actually in Melbourne and can make it, it's going from March 11th to April the 6th. It's called This Is Your Fault, and it's at the No Vacancy Gallery in Melbourne. I'll put links up if there are. We've got some links. Anything whatever you send me, and we'll just put it up there for people to check it out. And
and also too, if anyone's interested in coming to opening night, that's on March 13, Thursday, from 6 to 8 p.m. And if you can make it, come and say hi.
And your website, is that? I'm not going to guess it. Is it?
I took down my photography website, and at the moment I'm just on Instagram, and I will get my website back up with this art after I've photographed it and done the bits.
So what's your handle on Instagram then?
It's at Andy Drewitt.
Oh, how the hell did you get that?
I don't know. I threatened somebody.
I threatened to punch them. Oh, well, it's all lip service then, isn't it? Oh, God. Oh, men.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, thanks, mate.
I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Now, I might be looking down at times. That's not me feeling shame. I'm looking at the actual topic and the writing that I've been doing.
If I look down, it will be me feeling shame.